So today I want to talk about collections. I'm going to go pretty in depth. I mentioned this in the morning as well. I'm going to give you a whole walkthrough of how to set them up, but I also want to give you a little bit of background as to why I decided to use collections so much and kind of just like the benefits that I've actually seen in my own business, in a lot of my coaching clients' business. So that is what we're going to work on today, and also how to manage your collections and make sure they don't become too overwhelming. So way I started it this morning, I'd love, just before I kind of gear what we're going to talk about, every group is different, if you guys can just drop a few questions in there, or why you're here today, or if you're just here to listen and see if you find any great nuggets, that's fine too. But any specific questions you guys have on collections for buyers that you want me to touch on, please feel free to drop them in there. No questions. You guys are just here for fun? You just wanted to see me? Does everybody feel good with collections that is here? Do you guys feel good with how to set it up? I can maybe go a little bit quicker because I'm the collections queen. Oh, thanks guys. That's so nice. Don't really understand collections. Okay, need to know how to set it up. Okay. All right, so kind of have like a little bit of a mix. Some people who use them, some people who don't. So I'll cover all of it then today, which is always really good for me to see, just so I can gear it out and don't use. Okay. New to the business, collection super useful to leverage. Okay, so I feel like we're kind of all over the place. So that's good. Okie dokes. So first thing is why I like collections so much. There's a million different ways. I actually wrote them down because I always forget one of them. Benefits of having collections. This is actually a new one. I mentioned this earlier as well, and I think some people like it. I could see some eyes, so I'm going to say it again. If you don't have people on collections and you only have them on the MLS, or if you are just kind of dripping listings through every now and then, you do run a little bit of the risk of having them search on these other websites that have a lot of these, like the lead generation kind of systems or businesses built into them. So if you let your clients go loose on Zillow and maybe they just think, oh, I'm just going to ask for information, you haven't really built that deep of a rapport, you do run the risk of losing clients that way. And that's a very real thing. I shared a story I actually have a buyer who's making an offer today, but I wasn't available this past weekend. You can tell I got a little too much sun somewhere called Miami. And I hadn't really talked to them too much. We just gotten connected 4 days prior, and they didn't want to bother me. So they said, oh, we found a Zillow agent for the weekend. It's okay if the timing didn't line up. We're just really rushed. And I was like, oh my God, of course, Kate, I'm like, are you kidding me? I can't tell everybody this. But it was true that I said, I maybe should have pushed a little bit harder to get them up on that collection a little bit sooner. So I think this is something that, that's just one example. I'm sure we've all been there before. So you really want to keep people essentially in a place where you have more control over the situation. And that's what I feel like the collection allows me to do. You can watch them. You can see what they're searching on. You can see if they're searching in another state. We have all that capability. If you don't have people in that collection, though, it makes it a little bit harder to have control over it. Like I said, it's clean and it's organized. So kind of right there. I used the Marie Kondo example this morning, and this is what I want to help kind of empower all of you to do today too. If you're already using collections, I have a nice closet full of way too many things. When I go in there, it's not very fun to get dressed. I'm dreaming of like that really organized container store, big closet, so I can walk in, see everything organized. Makes you want to get up in the morning. It's the same kind of thing with this. If you have clients that are set up in a collection that has a bunch of old properties in there, I know some people like to keep it in to watch the status, but if you have a really unorganized thing in there and it's automatically feeding in, it's not really a specific or a curated experience for them. It's not going to make anybody, both them and both you, want to go in there and work out of that. So once you set up the collection, it is maintenance, and it is something that I'm going to show you guys how I personally do it. Of really making sure these are clean, these are organized, these are a place that people want to go and search. Because if it's a mess, and I've seen them, so you don't have to admit to me now, but we all have a collection or two that are just a disaster in there. You really want to make sure you're staying on top of those and making it a place that everybody wants to be a part of and leave comments, and it feels like a breath of fresh air. That's how people have explained my collections, the clients who work with me. And I think everybody is more than capable of doing this. You just need to have a little bit more of a system surrounding collections. You can also add in as many people as you need from the transaction. So use the same example as today. I have clients where their parents are going to be helping them out and they want to be as involved as possible. I don't blame them. I get that. And it's been helpful for me that I had that conversation with them, that I could add them into the collection so that it's not like I'm sending it to the clients. Then the clients kind of play a game of telephone. Kate said this, put it all in one place. When I leave a comment or when I share a listing, everybody gets notified. What they want to do with that situation, or what they want to do with that information, I mean, is a different story. And then simple, allow access to off-market properties. That's going to be different in all of our markets. But the main way that we do it here in Westchester is the easiest way, I should say, to do it is by adding a private exclusive via the collection. That's actually what grants the client access to it. And on the same side of it, if there's a listing that has sold before, we all know that on Zillow, I think this is everywhere, you guys can confirm, but it only shows that front picture of what had sold before. It doesn't show them the whole thing. If you add it in from the back end of Compass, it grants your clients access to seeing that. So I'm also able to leverage that a lot when I'm doing comps. Or good example, this past weekend, a house had come on a street. They really don't want to do a lot of work, but I showed them, I'm like, but look at what the people across the street did 2 years ago. So I was able to add that in and we got a conversation started. So this is how I just gave you like a bunch of examples just for the sake of time, but this is how I like to use my collections in a bunch of different ways. And you'll notice I'm always gearing people back there. It's how I make my offers. That's where we go over the comps. That's where we start. That's what I always tell people we're aiming to get to, is the collection stage. So I'm consistently driving people back there. It's not one conversation, but it's that maintenance that I do every single day. So that is, I know it's a lot of information, but you guys can always come back and rewatch it. So when do I set somebody up in a collection? This is a question I get a lot. And I would highly recommend, because I know I'm going to get questions on it, I'm going to be talking about a buyer questionnaire. I know I'm saying something that a lot of you guys don't have. I shared it in my expert mentor session a week or two ago. Go back there and you're going to get my buyer questionnaire and my seller questionnaire, and you can listen to the whole session on that. First step that I do with my clients is I get them set up on this buyer questionnaire that probably hundreds of people are doing now, and I'm sure it works very well for them. So they take the buyer questionnaire. I get all the results from that. What prompts our consultation call, which is about half an hour to an hour, is the results from their questionnaire that I have. It keeps, the conversation very organized. We're able to hit all the points. I don't forget to talk about anything. It brings up elephants in the room, like, do you have a pre-approval? How are you going to be financing? What's your timeline? Tell me, I really pry for as much information as I can. And then after that consultation call is when I'm going to use business tracker terms for a second. This is when people will move from that nurturing or that initial contact into the searching column. So if we all know what I'm talking about in business tracker, it's that center column. That is crucial for me. And that's what I would highly recommend a lot of you guys do as well. Don't just throw people into a random pillar, I'm going to call it, in there. Really be specific about what each one means. So when people get into searching for me, all of those people have been qualified, they're pre-approved, they're ready to go. I know what their timeline is, probably 0 to 3 months, and they have a collection. This way, when I go into that searching column, and just giving you a few steps ahead, stay with me, that is how I know every single day who's top priority and whose collection I need to be on top of once or twice a day, every day, until we get there. Because this is why I think collections get very confusing for people and very overwhelming. I'm sure everybody has their notification settings up on immediate. And just like show of hands, do you guys have like a ton of emails coming in all the time? You're like, shit. It's like, I get it. Okay. The house from like 55 minutes away just went into contract and out of contract. I don't really care. So you really want to make sure your notification settings are limited, and you're also not getting bombarded with that. Give yourself a time, give yourself a place every single day where you can go through. You're checking, like for me right now, I have a pretty good amount of buyers who are like in that stage, like 15 buyers. So I know it seems overwhelming, but it's only 15 collections I have to go check from the day before. We all have a lack of inventory. It's not that many houses I need to go through. It's like probably 2 to 3 houses per person, if I'm lucky. Actually, that's like generous. I'm lucky if one house comes on for someone in a week. So we all make it sound like, oh, it's so much work. It's not. It's just you need to Marie Kondo your collections. You guys can quote me on that. I don't know if that's like a copy. What is it called when I'm stealing somebody's slogan? So do we all feel good as to when somebody should actually be getting into a collection and the benefits of it? Did I convince anybody? otherwise? Yes. Okay, cool. No lack of inventory here. Oh my God, Sandy, I'm moving to Texas. Take all my clients. They need a house. They need a house. Okie dokes. So let's do, I really hate that I just said okie dokes. I feel like that's like not a Kate thing, but let's do it again. Okie dokes. Let's go and set up a collection if we all feel good on this. Okay. Fort Hood, Texas has inventory. Send them to Sandy Payne. Okay. Let me get this up. Okay. So when we're setting up the collection, you're going to always start over here. So I'm just going to go back. I'm in Compass Home. We're good here. Go to right down below to the magnifying glass, or it'll say search, depending on how big your browser is. And then we're here. So first things first, if this does not look like what yours looks like, it's probably because you don't have it set up on the MLS feature. How you do that is you're going to go over here to preferences, right in the top right corner. Click it. That helps. And then you're going to see here. So if I was on Compass filters, I'm just going to switch it for a second and click out. A lot of you who maybe don't use collections, this is going to be the default. So if you see that it looks like this, and if you want to search like that, you can. I just find it to be much easier. And like I'm using my mom, for example, who's been using the MLS for 20 years. It's much easier for her to work off of collections and get started that way if it's actually mimicking what the MLS looks like. So make it a little easier for yourself. If you're in a market that still doesn't pull completely properly, or whatever it is, I think we're all pretty much good now. Or if you don't really have an MLS in your market, maybe you need to use collections a different way. This is all, perfect, that it's just like Westchester where it pulls honestly like 100% almost every single day, maybe sometimes like 99%. So I'm going to go ahead and change back to HGAR. That's my MLS. We're going to change back to those filters. Yours will say whatever your MLS is. Click out of it, and then I'm here. And then I would do a search just as I would in the MLS. So I'll use these clients I was just talking about. And your MLS will look a little bit different. So basically I'm just doing price, bedrooms, county, do single family, and I'm just going to pick a bunch of random districts. Okay, this is good enough. So it gave me like 19 results. So you can get as specific as you want. If you want to draw a radius around the map, you could do list and map, and you could draw a radius right here. You could do whatever you want. So set this up however you need to. I like to go in here and just do the card view so that I can actually make sure it's populating listings that are correct. I didn't click a school district I didn't, they weren't interested in, or, whatever. Just double check everything's looking good. Okay, this is like a big, like if you're zoning out, listen to this part. If you make a collection in Workspace, which is this pencil over here, it's not going to embed a search in it. I'm going to repeat that again. Don't make a collection where it tells you to make a collection, essentially is what I'm saying. You want to start at search, because now it's, if you set it up this way and I go and click save search right up here, and then I click collection for your clients, what I'm doing is I am creating a collection with a search already built into it. That is how it's going to automatically continue to feed listings as they come on. You're basically embedding an IDX feed within a collection. That's what you're doing. So if any of you have collections that don't have anything continuing to populate besides the listings you put in that day you set it up, this is the reason why. Does that make sense? I know it kind of sounds backwards. It kind of is backwards, but this is how you do it. So once you have all the listings you like, you're going to press collection for your clients right here. So save search, collection for your clients. I'm going to put in Corinne again. Apparently the one I set up this morning for her had like 16,000 results. She called me. She was not so happy. She's like, are you shopping for a new house for me? I'm like, no, just using you as an example. Okay. Keep it simple. Add in the client, put the title or the collection name. Next is going to be this alert schedule. So this all goes back to, you guys probably heard me say this a few times, but I'm going to say it again because I still go back and I see people who are doing automatic. You want to change this to review listings and handpick. You can really open up a big can of worms. If you're automatically sending things to people that, you know, completely do not follow what they just talked about with you, especially if you're doing it the way I'm telling you to, and you've done the buyer questionnaire, you sat on the phone for an hour and so did they. And now you go to set up their collection and they're getting a whole bunch of notifications and a whole bunch of listings in there, like 55 listings, where 45 of them don't match anything that you guys talked about. I don't know. I would be a little upset. Might not be getting off on the right foot. So I would much rather set up somebody in a collection right after we just did that whole process. And they maybe have, in a market like this, granted, I'm not in that area of Texas where we have an abundance of inventory. If I can find like 5 to 10 great properties and leave really educated comments on there, that's a win for me. And I think that's a win to the client because, again, think about that Marie Kondo. You want to go in, they want to feel like they can breathe. They're already overwhelmed enough as it is. So just put in a few that work really well for them. If you don't have a lot of inventory and you want to show them, I think right now we should be hopefully getting a little bit better than we were in January. But I also always recommend you can add in a few that are pending. You can add in a few that are sold. So you can change it up just to give them something to look at in the collection. But you want to really make sure you're reviewing and handpicking. It adds this whole other layer that AI, Chat GPT, like all these things everyone's talking about, I think are great things, but it's not going to replace us. So you can only rely on this to give you a framework. And then you should really be taking the control back and saying, okay, great, let me take a look at them one more time. Okay. So you're going to change this to review and handpick. You can change these to whatever you want. If you only want daily, I like to do hourly. I think in this market, I don't want to miss something, but maybe change your clients to daily. See who your client is. If your client loves to be bombarded and this is like a pastime for them where they beat you to every single listing, great. Like make a joke of it and move on. Like that, you're not going to change the client. It doesn't make you a bad agent because you didn't see it before them. It just means they're hyper fixated on it. So change them to daily, or change one of them if you've like, you know, husband and wife, you have partners on here, whatever it is. Then maybe you want to go in and say, okay, one's on daily, one's on hourly. So you can change those as they go. Then I'm going to click create collection. And now we're here. So you're going to see I have this whole unshared and I have this shared. So unshared has 19, which is what that matches the search results we just had from the criteria, and shared has 0. Basically, what this means is that Kate or you, whoever it is, can see, the agent can see 19, and your client right now, if they were in this collection, is seeing 0 listings that have populated. So this is all hidden from them. So you want to go through and say, okay, great. A few of these are working for them. I like that. I'm going to skip over a few that maybe I don't think would be the best. Maybe that would work. Do like one more. Sure. Okay. So I just went through all the other 14. I'm like, really doesn't work well for them. But now imagine if they just got all of those and then I had to go back in and backtrack and they just got alerted that there's 19 listings. And then they see some of them, like, I don't want to take like a Compass listing. Let's just make sure. Let's make sure it's not. Okay. So like this, for instance, I don't know if, like we just talked about, wanting something completely renovated and blah, blah, blah. I don't know if this is like the vibe they would be going for. You know what I mean? It's really crazy that that's a listing photo. So I just want to make sure that I'm only adding in ones that they would feel really good with. Again, remember, like at this point, you've probably only met the client once if you're lucky. You've had one conversation. You want to keep everything very smooth, like very crisp and clean. Like they just checked in at the hotel. We don't need them to like walk into the room and, they forgot to make the bed. Like we want to keep this very clean, very Four Seasons experience. So I'm going to go ahead and trash all of these. Now I'm in shared. I have 5 with them. Just like I said to you, I'd love to have like 5 in here that are great. And then I'd go through and I'd leave some comments on here, flex my knowledge on the area and why they're working with me. Another thing, I don't need to just send people listings that they could have just found on Zillow. Why did I add this in? Why, hey, maybe this isn't the best listing for you, but I wanted to add it in general, just so you can see how this one's moving or where this price point is at. So adding in things that are for a reason, but tell them why you added it in. That's another really big thing. So, and I'll get to who just raised their hand in a second. So from here, you go in, add in all of your comments. I had this question before, clean up collection. Use it if you want. Don't use it if you don't want. For lack of a better term, I'm a control freak. So I'd much rather just be in control of this. I never have a criteria that's set like so wide, not never, but most of the time, 95% of the time, people are looking for something like this. And they have 8 different school districts in there. So I'm not getting bombarded with a ton of them. I would much rather go in, and if every day I'm checking this for a client who is one of like my clients right now, who again, go back to the searching, they've signed with me, they've made an agreement with me, their timeline matches, I've educated them on the market, all these things. That's why I'm giving them one time a day for me to be checking this so heavily. If there's 3 for me to go in and review, I don't need to use the cleanup collection. So if you have collections from the past that maybe you do have like 100 or 500 listings in here, I've seen this stuff before, maybe cleanup collection is a good option for you, but just see how you feel on that. So let me just wrap up what I'm saying, then I'll open it up all for questions. What I do to go in and review all of these, think about what I was just saying. I have those 15 clients in searching. Those are the people who I'm going to really try and check every single day. So I have a 45-minute to an hour time block per day. I have many, many clients using this, like Compass agents using this, coaching clients using this. So this is not just me, it works. It's giving you 1 hour a day to go in, clean up all the collections that really matter to you. If a listing, I had this question earlier, if a listing comes on and you're not from your 1 to 2 p.m. time block, yes, you can respond to it. Of course, use your app. I love the Compass app. I'm in there all the time. And, I'll go in and I'll add something in there. If somebody has a comment that they leave to me, I'm not like, oh, sorry, Kate's checked the building. See you at my time block tomorrow. I'll go in and I'll respond to it, because a lot of my communication is done via the collection, which is a great thing. That's how, I hope everybody can get to, because it's all in one place. Now I don't have one person texting me one place, one person texting me the other. So you can break these time blocks. The time block is really there more for you to make sure that you're on top of each of these collections, and you've given yourself or that collection some time, some space in your day, but it doesn't mean you can't go back to it at any other point. I personally found the collections could be very distracting, and it was actually becoming a really big time suck for me, because I was in there for so long, much longer than I needed to be. So I thought, let me give myself an hour. It causes me to move, somewhat quickly through them. I don't get too fixated on anything. Make sure it's clean, make sure the comments are up there, clean out any ones that maybe the status changed that my client didn't want in there anymore, and move on to the next closet. Like, that's how I think of it. I'm like, okay, tidied up enough in here. We're good. Next closet, move on. So that is kind of my whole thing on here. This is good. I finished a little bit quicker. I know I was probably talking fast, but I wanted to get everything in. So let me open it up for questions. Jay, if you want to unmute yourself, go ahead.
Hey, Kate. So this is great. The question that I have is around the filter for schools. So I have clients who the geography that they're looking for has 53 elementary schools, and they only want to get things that are above like 8, 9, 10, because their kids currently go to a 10 school and they don't want to, downgrade substantially. Mm-hmm. Now, when I go into the search, it gives me that option. The search result shows me that there are 8, 9, 10, but the filter, I don't understand how can I use the data that's already in my Compass search results to filter out. Do you understand the questions? I want to search for anything that is 8, 9, 10 schools.
I do understand the question, and I'm going to tell you, I don't think any MLS will have that due to fair housing. That would probably be my guess. I don't think there's a way to filter. If anybody else, you can chime in, but I don't think so. I know you can filter out by the school. So if you have a list of the 8, 9, 10s or whatever it is, maybe then you can do that. But I think that's really teetering on the line of fair housing. So I don't think there'd be a way to do it. I don't even know. I mean, personally, just me, I wouldn't, I'm not calling anybody out here. I just wouldn't even comment on the ratings of schools, because we're very tough on that here. So I just would steer away from that. And how I would maybe approach the client is just say, is there a zone, or is there a list of the elementary schools you'd like me to keep in your criteria? I don't see a problem with that. And then they've let you know the ones you haven't talked about why or why not, and you keep that in your criteria.
Yeah, I know what they're going to say. They say, Jay, why don't you do the work? We're open to this area. Go through the 53 schools and pick the top ones. And
Yeah, I
I
don't
just
know if you can answer
I
that.
just got myself buried for that.
Yeah, I know. I think it's teetering on a fair housing line there.
Gotcha.
All right. Jim, what's going on, my friend?
Hey, Kate,
Hey.
this is really fantastic. I've learned a lot this morning.
Good.
I've learned how many things I've done wrong setting up backwards.
You got me twice this week to tell you that then.
So I've got a big housekeeping mess in collections.
Yeah.
Question for you. Once a search or once the IDX is aligned with the collection, like you showed us, we just go under saved searches for that collection to modify the search.
Nope. So you'll actually be, they'll be housed in, this is like why I'm saying it's kind of backwards. They'll still be housed under collections. There's just a save search that's in there. So I would basically go to workspace.
Yeah.
And then Corinne search. And then if I wanted to edit the criteria, I would go right up here into edit criteria.
Got it.
Does that,
Okay.
is,
So we're
is that what
going
you're
into the
asking?
collection for that particular collection, editing the criteria for that
Yes.
particular collection.
Yes. You're not wrong though, in the sense what you are doing is embedding a save search within this overarching umbrella called a collection.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
All
And if
right.
we do have somehow early on, before I really learn this, maybe other people have too, end up with duplicate collections because it got set up through a search, and then somehow for the same client, I think we got another search set up through maybe Workspace.
Yeah. I would say delete the one that you don't have the client in and make sure everybody's on the same page about which one you're deleting or not. Sometimes, honestly, I've just kept both because I don't want to make a mistake. And I'm like, okay, there's 3 months of writing this out and move on. And then you learn from your mistakes. Like, this is like how I learned. I used to make these collections all the time. And I'm like, the hell am I doing wrong here? And then someone showed me that years ago. I'm like, oh, okay, I get it. So I wrote it out for a few months and then I knew what to do moving forward.
Yeah. Okay. This is super helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Kate,
Yeah.
hi, it's Luciana. I tried to change on the wheel, you have a wheel on the top to change to see if my search is with my MLS criteria, but it doesn't give me the option. The only thing that shows up is save as default criteria, reset to your saved criteria, or view in preferences.
And you're looking back here in the search.
Oh, I was looking in the wheel, in the search, but in the screen itself. And I think you go all the way up there where it says preferences.
Yeah.
Okay. So the one that says compass filters, that's not the one you use, right?
It's not the one that I use because we're a very heavy MLS area.
Well, we do have a heavy MLS, but it under my MLS, which is Miami RE, it shows under compass filters.
I would maybe, because I can't see it, I would really ask your AEM and they'll know best, specific for your area, like the best way to search. This is just like a part of it. You can use compass filters or you can use that. Ask your AEM which one people seem to use more and have better results with.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Thank
All
you.
right. Marla.
Hi, Kate. I was trying to figure out how to use collections more for like social media posts and things like that. I just don't know how to keep those updated. It seems like it's just more of a static collection. Is that the case? Okay.
It is. And I'm really hoping that they can update that. I'll do my best to push that up the line. But yes, it is static. And that's something that's hard about the public collections.
Yeah. So I feel like it just is really hard to use for that purpose. But
yeah,
my other question is, how do we, do you have any best practices for, I guess, more of like cold leads? These people are like online leads that have reached out. They're looking for a home search, and then I send them this link to this collection, but they never go through that process of accepting the invitation. So then they never get, ongoing
In there,
emails.
yeah.
They never actually see like a list of homes or anything that looks like what they've asked for. I think it's easy to scan through and just feel like it's a spam email.
Yeah. I think online leads are hard in general. I think to get them to do anything is difficult. I would probably say work them as best as possible to get them to fill out, like when I've done online leads in the past, I think having them fill out this buyer questionnaire is a best practice. Also, depending on where your online leads are coming from, sometimes they also have, like their own search engine kind of built in, and they have like a branded site for you or something like that. But I would probably say, I don't know, I guess try to get them into a collection that you've curated. Try to get them on the phone, I guess, is really what I'm trying to say. That's all I can think of,
I just feel
otherwise
like
it's
we
just
have an
going to
extra
feel like
hurdle.
spam.
Yeah, I feel like it's like one more hurdle to get them. Like even if you've gotten them into a conversation, I've gotten that far, and then it just still like, okay, now I got an email that just doesn't look like anything that they want, or they just don't take that step. So it's hard to get.
I think also trying your best to role play and set that expectation up in the conversation is very helpful. So like if they're looking out for it, it'll be much easier for them to say, oh, this is probably what, she said she was going to be sending to me.
Right. Okay.
Okay. All right. Well, I have to hop off. If you guys have questions, definitely write them in and we'll get to them in another way. But thank you guys for coming. And I think I'll see you guys next week as well for a session. All right. Bye, guys.